Now for a quick Devar Torah. In the Hagadah, we come across an extremely interesting little story. Remember, the Hagadah is a teaching mechanism to remind us of how we get started, how the Jewish people got started, and the story behind why we're Jews. Um, and by the way, there's somebody who tried to make a Seder for July 4th because to remind Americans why there's the United States. But in the Haggadah, one of the stories is of the rabbis learning in Bnei Brak. It's a very interesting story, very deep. A lot of us just pass over it. Nice little story about rabbis. But if you look a little bit deeper into the story, certain things jump out at you. They're talking about the slavery of Jews in Egypt. None of the rabbis mentioned were from families that were enslaved in Egypt. They're either from the tribe of Levi, the Levites, or they were converts, in which case the Levites were not slaves. So in other words, to them the story, they were not taken out of bondage. The other interesting thing, other interesting thing is all these rabbis were eventually murdered by the Romans. And they're not outside. The students have to come and say, it's time to daven Shachrit. They couldn't see the sun. In other words, they were in a place they were in hiding. And basically, it's brought down, it was during the Bar Kokhba revolt. So they're under persecution. They have no real connection to the idea that their families that were not freed from slavery. And yet they're dwelling on the story, drawing out every little tidbit that they can. So what's going on here? Why these rabbis are chosen? And the answer is a very simple one. That just because you don't suffer like another Jew doesn't mean that you have no connection to that suffering. I'm old enough to remember that, my grandfather heard there was an earthquake in Japan. His first reaction would be, were any Jews hurt? It's like, because he was Jewish. And that's the way a lot of Jews would think. The story is to teach us a very important lesson. If one Jew suffers, all Jews suffer. We're all in it together. We are all brothers and sisters. We're all, the tie there is there. So, we say Tehillim every day because of the situation in Israel. A lot of Jews are going to Israel, hopefully, for Pesach. And they were asked, they said, well, you can't do anything. You're not a soldier. You're not this. You're not that. What are you going there? And what they're really going for is to help. One way they're helping the Jews of Israel is the fact that they're there.
Not to mention the King David breakfast.
The King David breakfast. No, but the fact that they're there, and even the King David breakfast, the food had to come from somewhere. Somebody has to make the food. So you're helping the economy by just being there. You're giving hizuk to the people. And it's something to think about. Okay,